Today's episode of the CURED Collective podcast is a episode with one of our partners. Dylan McKenna is joining the podcast today to share his journey into the bodybuilding world, the Instagram world, building a following, and just chasing his passion. Dylan has been representing the company for a couple months now, and we truly appreciate his contribution to our collective. In this episode, we utilize transparency. As you all know, we truly believe that honesty, integrity, responsibility, they are non-negotiables for living a well-rounded, healthy, and fulfilled life. And that's something that I appreciate about Dylan. We talk about his bodybuilding career. We talk about the ins and outs of the industry, some of the negative or unhealthy parts of the bodybuilding world, and how he has approached navigating those situations when it comes to taking steroids, when it comes to making decisions to take health, fitness, and wellness in directions that potentially aren't considered or aren't truly healthy and for the betterment of ourselves. Sometimes we get caught up in the aesthetics, and he dives into all of that. I appreciate him joining us today. I hope you all enjoyed today's episode. And without further ado, Dylan McKenna. Hi, brother. Dylan, thanks for coming, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good to have you here. Stoked to talk about the bodybuilding world, talk about your journey, talk about everything that you've got going on. I know you have some new things launching. And we originally were connected through a mutual friend and I guess kind of trainer, Ben and Waddy. But it's been cool to watch you from the outside and get to meet you. And congratulations on turning pro last year. And I want to talk about the whole journey. I think something that's really inspiring about you is, and Katrina, to be completely honest, is just ultimate transparency. And I think that's something that lacks in our world. And I think that when transparency doesn't exist, the people that look up to people on social media they're having a disservice done to them, because they may aspire to be a certain way, but if they're not getting the full story, they're going to run into roadblocks. So I wanted to start there, man, and just say thank you for being who you are and thank you for joining me on the podcast.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. I appreciate you having me on. Everyone listening, I appreciate it. And yeah, man, I mean, I guess where I would start with that is just, when I first got into the bodybuilding space and stuff like that, I'm not sure how much you know about how I got into that, but
I want to talk to you about that. So let's start there. Like what brought you into the world?
So myself and my group of friends in high school. So I met this guy named David Lade.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you're familiar with him at all.
Yeah.
I met him when I was in high school. I was a sophomore in high school, and nobody else in my high school was really super into lifting weights. So it was pretty much just kind of like me and him. And so like people were like, you know who this kid is? You know who this kid? I'm like, no, I don't know who he is. I don't know who he is. And then eventually we met each other, and we kind of like became friends.
At the same high school? Or
yeah, same high school. So we became friends like almost immediately because we both had like a huge passion for lifting, and it was just not common in our high school. So I quit football my freshman year. I played football for 8 years, started getting into lifting through football, quit football, started lifting hardcore. Dave, everyone knew he was kind of doing the same thing. So we just inevitably kind of linked and met. And we loved the gym so much. The whole Matt Ogus, Chris Lovato, Jeff Side, like he was in the Z's, all of that. Like, I mean, we could name every power lifter, fitness influencer at the time. And we were just so infatuated by lifting and getting bigger and stronger and all these things. And so Dave also was very into filmmaking, from a young age. He always made videos, just little stupid videos, whatever. He loved cameras, all of that. So eventually he actually broke his leg, and he made a transformation video. The video blew up. And when that video blew up to like 3 million views, he, gained like 10,000-15,000 subscribers. So he was like, hey, Dylan, let's start filming in the gym. Like, let me just start filming what we're doing. Cause he got a camera. And he was like, hey, like I already have these subscribers. Maybe we could just upload some stuff. And that's kind of how it started for me on social media. So,
No shit.
Yeah.
So it was his transformation after breaking his leg, like coming back from it. Coming back from the injury.
So what happened was he broke the leg, right? And he had a bunch of pictures from when he started working out until then. And it was a huge transformation. So when he was downtime, it took him like months to edit this video. Now it might have like 10 million views, and he's got another one with like 50 million and all this stuff. But like, it's funny because, I mean, that plays a big role in my journey, which is why I bring it up. So that's how I kind of got into the online stuff. I got into the actual loving it just due to, finding it in high school football. It's pretty normal, way to get into it. And I got the bug. And then, his videos just started getting more and more traction. And all of a sudden he had like 50,000, 100,000 subscribers. And we were like in high school.
That's a lot of fucking people watching you at a young age, too.
It was just a lot of people. So it was like, whoa, like it was really surreal and weird because all of a sudden we were this like new thing in the industry. When we would watch everything in the industry and we were kind of this new entity, like the Jersey Squad or whatever people would call us. And it was just funny. We just started growing. And then people were like, Dylan, make a channel. Cause I was in pretty much every video. Right. And we had some other friends that would be in the videos with us, and they all grew massively on social media as well. And I just made a channel because I'm like, wow, okay, well, people like what we're doing. And I was never into the videography, but always deeply into the training and entertainment. So I just started making my own videos. It just kind of caught traction. I would, post my physique updates on Instagram and, what I'm doing. And it just kind of became this like little reality TV show.
It's so insane, the power of like the way in which you can have a camera, a phone, and a computer, and you can have a distribution of information, like get in front of so many eyes. We think about, I remember when I was younger and like, you would watch like the Super Bowl or something like that, or you would hear how many people are watching a specific news channel. They're like millions of people. And now you say, hey, like we have these X videos that all have millions and millions of eyes on them. Like the way in which the world has given such power to everybody to distribute information is really insane. But I think what matters the most is just like you didn't know that how much value you'd be bringing to people, and then you just started filming, and people were like, "Oh shit!" They're like eating it up. It's a weird thing. It's a really weird thing.
It is. It's a really weird thing because, like I said, I mean, initially we were like, why do people want to watch? We were kind of confused. We're like, but now understanding it was like a reality TV show. We were just young guys in the gym, like everyone. And like I said, we were the only two guys in my high school. Right. So like we had this whole friend group that was all like, deadlifting 500 pounds in high school and all this stuff. And so it was almost like a beacon for those kids in their high schools or their areas or their colleges where they didn't have, lifting just for fun, like the bodybuilding. It really wasn't as big of a thing before, like, years ago. It wasn't as like, I don't know about like when you went to high school, I'm sure there wasn't that many kids like trying to, I want to bodybuild and look like David Lade or something, or look like Jeff Side.
I'm trying to think, because that's what I was going to ask you. So I started competing. I started competing in, when was it? I graduated from college in 2013. And it was like 2014 or something like that. And I remember it was like, the Aziz like all that. And there was like a couple of the people that I looked up to at the time. And that's what I was going to ask you. Who were you modeling this journey after? Because it was so wild. I remember the first time I saw people competing in physique or in bodybuilding, and having like an athletic background, you're like, okay, like you lifted, but you didn't lift to the extent that it required to get your body to look like that. And I think just like visually seeing the way in which people could take their bodies to a level that you could have never really imagined, like something that you thought like didn't think was possible, but you actually started to do it. I think it's cool to see the human potential, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, what was there like? Those were the specific people: Jeff Side, Matt Ogus.
I would say like honestly for me, it was never like I was like, I want to look like Jeff Side or Matt Ogus, or I don't know how to explain it. I feel like what almost made us unique too in a way was like we respected and watched all of these people. Like I would watch power lifters from like Stan Efferding to like there many different people, right? Like strongmen, like anything to do with the gym. It was more of like such an interest. Like I wanted to get to an elite level, but I never felt like I want to look like him or this but it was always, of course you get motivation from people who like look better or stronger or whatever. But it was like, I feel like we didn't model it after anybody, which is what made it successful, because there really was no young kid putting themselves out there and just being really completely themselves, just messing around in the gym and loving it so much.
People can connect to that because you're like literally like, hey, like I'm a normal dude doing things that not everybody does, but it's like, it's authentic and people can connect with it. That's really cool, man. I think that that's important. I think that that's important for anybody that's listening to this and wanting to pursue building a following, building some type of entity where people like are actually truly entertained. And like, what was that underlying component? And you're just true authenticity. Or we were just enjoying living. Man, that's a real fucking powerful lesson for everybody. Just enjoy living.
And I try to tell, because people reach out to me daily and they ask me, how do I get sponsored? How do I, do this or do that? And it's like, for me, I tell them like, hey, I used to try and give them this advice, like be consistent, do this. And then I'm like, I always start off with, you've already heard this before, right? Like you definitely have to be consistent. You have to, like stay mainly just consistent, keep putting your stuff out there, right? That's the main thing. But like lots of people can do that, but it's like, if you're doing it because you want a sponsorship or you want to make money or you don't like your job, so that's the only that's your main motivation behind it. Not saying it's bad, but I typically find that people that are really successful in the social media space were not seeking it. It found them due to them having something that they loved so deeply, or they were so talented at something, one of the other, you know what I mean, that it just, people got on board with it. And they got on board with it. And so there's many ways you can, add value, whether it's like entertainment or motivation or, many different ways. But you just have to be yourself and post what you want to post. What's going to make you happy? What do you want people to see from you? All these things, just be authentic, be yourself. Don't try to be me. Don't try to be somebody else. Just,
I think it's the difference between being a creator and a consumer. Like a lot of people get trapped finding themselves just consuming content online, then they're comparing themselves, and then they're disappointed when they don't see themselves be like that other person. But that's the literal roadblock that's holding them back.
Totally. I remember before I started my YouTube, I had maybe 10,000 followers on Instagram, and Dave, we were doing YouTube and he had all these subscribers, and I was, I'm not going to start my YouTube until I bench this, or I'm going to start my YouTube when I get leaner. I'm going to start and it's like, you could really go down that road forever. But when I just one day started, then I learned how to get better at making videos, how to entertain people better. What did people like to see? What did they not like? So all the time I wasted not doing it because I felt like I needed to be in a better place before I did it. It was just me in my head. It was it was a waste to not start it, before that. So I just try to tell people, if you're going to, try to, embark on social media and get people on board with your journey, just be authentic, post the stuff that you like to post, and do it for yourself, and to help other people, not, to be sponsored by a company and, make money or whatever the case be, might be. Just do it for the authentic, real reasons. And that's the majority of people that truly succeed in it.
Yeah, for sure. And like, know that you're going to need to course correct. Like one of the things that we were talking about before this podcast was just business in general. And we have different types of businesses, right? Like I sell a product, and you can too, but it's more service based.
Totally, absolutely.
But man, made a shit ton of mistakes to get to where I am today. Absolutely. And it really just required starting and fucking up and being like, okay, well, I'm not going to do that again, or I'm not going to, there's no other way to approach it. So how about actually competing? Because you were bodybuilding, you and Dave were, in the bodybuilding world, you're interested in the lifting world, but how about actually like saying, hey, I'm going to compete, step on stage. And I know that, you just turned pro this last year. I think that that's a different level. Like you can be a bodybuilder and interested in bodybuilding, but actually stepping up on stage and competing is a whole nother level. What was that like? Was that the plan to go into competing, or what drove you to actually competing?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's really funny. So when I first started, I was all about like just being as big as I could and powerlifting, and I didn't care how my physique looked. I just wanted to be big and strong. I never in a million years would have ever thought I would compete in like basically a beauty contest.
Dude,
like that's really what it is, right? So like for me, I just never even
Did you
thought
wink at
about
Sandy
it.
or not?
I may have. Yeah, no. She actually did judge Team U. Yeah. Yeah. I think
if you've competed in men's physique before, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. But basically, it's funny because so I have my coach, really good friend of mine. His name's Stephen Cal. He went to my gym. He actually got 15th at the Olympia this year. He went to my gym. So I always would see him in the gym, like looking insane. I mean, he was competing and then he would, he went pro and I'm like, wow, this is really amazing. This is crazy what he's doing. I like to eat my Wendy's burgers and like lift more weights than him, but what he's doing is really cool. And I think just as I got older and, as I got older, I started to feel like, okay, I want to transition my content a bit on social media. And I've been lifting for 5-6 years. I want to try a contest prep out, give it my 100% all because I'm so into fitness and lifting. I want to channel it into, channel that in with my competitiveness that I had. So I'm like, I have Steve in my life, so I know what it's like. He can coach me through this as a pro. A really good friend of mine. And I wanted to like I said, the content too. I knew that people would love to watch that journey, meet someone that they're already following, trying to go win a show, you know what I mean, in the NPC. That would be interesting for them to watch. And I personally would love to do it because I'm competitive and not that I was bored with my training, but I was like, you know what, it's going to get like, how it is. And a lot of people know if they're competing, it's kind of hard to describe. The feeling when you're on prep is like you have this purpose every single day. It's another level. Like when you're in the gym, every rep, you're hyped up. You're like, I have to look this way on stage. My family's going to be there. Like, so I wanted that. I wanted to try it.
I think your discipline, like the discipline in every other area of your life goes to the next level when you're competing too. Cause you have to plan every little thing out. Mm-hmm. Now, once you get closer to the competition, I'm going to tell a quick aside story. I used to work at Lockheed Martin and I used to work on the 3rd floor when I was competing, and I would bring all my meals and everybody knew me there as the healthy jacked guy. And I would be walking in the morning, but I had done like fasted cardio. I had been so depleted, and I would take the elevator and people would walk in and be like, the fit dude's taking the fucking elevator. I'm like, dude, you guys don't understand how tired I am. Yeah. So once you get to that super depleted place, it's different. But the discipline that you learn from competing and how that spreads into every other area of your life, it's insane.
Yeah, especially if you actually, a lot of people that I even coach, like I explained to them this, it's like I knew because I knew Steve, if I do this prep, I'm dedicating these 14 weeks 100%. Like, and fortunately for me, I didn't have a job at the time. Like my job was pretty much full-time coaching and different things on social media. So that's what I did. So, but even if you're full-time working, I mean, your job and your prep is it. That's all you really have. And, or just your prep. If you're not, having your job to make your income, like, it's so demanding. And so if you can get through that to the end and show up in contest shape, it will, change you. Like for sure, you will learn discipline if you haven't learned it, like you said.
For sure. One of my business partners here, it does not come from the same space, but every time we bring somebody by here, and whether they've competed or not, but like if they say they've competed, he's like, oh, I know who that person is, or what type of a person that is, or what type of work they've put into that type of a journey and into themselves to get there. It's a whole nother level of just commitment. And I think that I think that from my perspective, what I've noticed is a lot of people that have found bodybuilding and fitness have been through adversity in their life, or have known that like difficult times come, but the only thing that we can be is like resilient and persevere and get through it. And I don't know if that lands for you. If it does, feel free to share. But I think that that's something that I see through so many people in the world, is like just difficult times, but also understanding how to persevere.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, because it's very easy through many parts of a competition prep to kind of quit. You know what I mean? It's very easy to quit. I mean, it gets to a point where, you can't go out to eat ever, right? You're on the same regimen every single day. So, I mean, it's tough to really understand. I mean, the fact that the food's very low and you're hungry all the time is one thing, but you also just know, you can't eat something you'd be craving for a long period of time. And I think also it's very also unhealthy in a lot of ways, due to the fact that it does create that mindset. So you have to be very, very, very strong mentally, and very disciplined outside of a prep too, because when you're in that prep, like, it's easy to just be like, oh, I want a burger, I want cake, give me anything. Like, oh my God, I miss these foods that but that's something that after prep, you shouldn't just be going and gaining 35 pounds and it's not good on your heart and your kidneys and it's junk food and all these things. I mean, you should, slowly wean back into, a diet, like still keep the staples as like whole food, healthy. But so I think a lot of people, they compete and they do well there, but then the other half of it, they're 35, 40 pounds heavier in 2 weeks, and it can be very, unhealthy.
It's more than a 14, 16, whatever week prep. Yeah. It's a year round thing. How many shows did you do before you turned pro?
So I just did one show. And I won the overall of that show, and then I did my second show, which was nationals, and I went pro at that show.
So you have to win at the local level,
so you have to place
first or second.
So you place top 2 in your class.
That's right.
And then you can go to a national show, and then you have to place top 2 in your class to go pro.
That's right. Yeah. It's been a little while since I've been in the world, but it's a cool world. I think you meet a lot of really cool people. Speaking about the discipline outside of competing, I've heard a lot of individuals use the excuse of steroids to justify eating like shit, or just literally being able to use steroids to justify eating like shit, because you can actually you can handle it a lot of the time, which is just this like fallacy of like, I think that that's what the realization for me was when I started to get to the end of my competing career, was like, scrolling through social media and even seeing some of my own posts, I would say like #health. And I was like, that's not actually healthy. And so is that me being in integrity? Like, I don't actually think so. So what's that journey been like for you? Cause I know you've been super open about it, using steroids, and I haven't shared it too much, but would love to talk about it, because it's almost a non-negotiable in the world. And I don't think most people know that. I think more people are starting to learn that, which is props to the people that are sharing it. Props to you, because I think people need to understand that. And I'm not saying that there's actually anything wrong with making the decision too. Like, yeah, totally. Yeah. Like if you're doing it intelligently and you understand that it's part of
the process.
It's literally part of the process. Like, I'm thinking about like Lance Armstrong and like all the bikers, right? Like, I think you can count. It's less people that aren't on some PED than are actually on, and so it's just part of the culture. It's part of pushing yourself to this maximum level. But was that always like in your foresight when you were getting into the world?
So for me, I mean, there's kind of a lot to break down there, because I would say like with the steroid thing, it's like. So I basically started dabbling with it when I was, in my teens, and I honestly, regrettably at this point, because I'm like, there was just no reason. I wanted gains faster than I needed it. I wasn't willing to do it the right way. I took a pro hormone. I was like,
dude, those things are gnarly.
Yeah. So I took one of them. It didn't really mess me up because it was only 30 days. I would never recommend someone do that. I was like 17 or 18, took one of them, took like it was 2 SARM cycles before I actually did my first prep, and I took my first like real cycle of like steroids that aren't SARMs or pro hormones, which are both not natural, obviously, but it's not like an anabolic steroid per se. Well, I guess the pro hormone is, but it's the first like designer regular type of stuff. So I do have like a good amount of experience in that world. And I think that a lot of people, right, so a lot of people just they start competing because they're like, it's a way to take steroids to justify it mentally. They're like, oh, I'm going to compete. And so that means I get to take steroids now, right? Because they've always wanted to try it. Like I wanted to try it. And I think that was part of my competing. I'm like, oh, well, this is a great way to, like justify taking these things that I've always wanted to try. Because when you're super deeply passionate about the gym, and the bodybuilding as a sport, it's tough to say. I mean, even guys that are lifetime natural that do it, and kudos to them, and I recommend it, but they absolutely at one point or another have really beat themselves up if they love the sport on, should I take stuff or, should I try this out? I mean, it would make everything way crazier, but so for me, I think that, the steroids, adding those in, I did that as a part of the prep, like you kind of said. And I mean, I from that point on, I kind of, when I started them on like the first prep, actually started, that's when I started, never came all the way off, meaning I was either on a cycle or on like replacement therapy, testosterone replacement therapy. And so I think that it got to a point where it started to get a bit addicting for me, where I'm like, I want to get bigger. I want to get stronger. I want to continue to, climb up in this world. I want, and compete. And I want to go to the Olympia. I want to win the Olympia, all this stuff. And, I wasn't actually thinking about the things that mattered truly the most. I was getting clouded by like, how good I felt on these steroids and all these different things, you know what I mean? So, and I think that's very common to happen to people. So I think that's kind of where the competing took me, is like, I did it because I did love the competing, but at the same time, I don't love that steroid part of it. It's just not something that's, like you said, a healthy lifestyle. Just to bring that back, it's not a healthy lifestyle.
And I don't think that there's enough correct information out there about it. Like I'm not going to name names, but when I was in the competing world, like some of the people that myself and a mutual friend that we were just talking about were looking to, they were like recommending things that, like
it's ridiculous.
1-2 grams of test. And you're like, okay, like
absurd.
It's absolutely absurd. And I got fucking trapped in it, man. It was competition was done. Then it was like, okay, now what?
Bulk.
I got a bulk.
Yeah.
And so, okay, now I'm switching to the long esters. And I'm putting this in, putting that in. And like, I think that it's just, you can get trapped in it, and it's scary to watch friends get trapped in it. It's scary to watch how some people commit so much of their life to it, but then it traps them literally just in that world. And I think you can do so much more with fitness and bodybuilding and a passion for health than just either I'm bulking or competing. Like you can do so much more with it. And sometimes I think that people get jaded and maybe not jaded. Maybe it's just like
body dysmorphia.
Body dysmorphia. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like I think that's what it is.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
do you struggle with it?
I absolutely in the past.
Yeah.
Like when you're focusing like on competing, like when you're focusing on like, okay, like I'm trying to look the best I can look on stage, you're constantly judging your physique.
Yeah.
So competing, like there's a way to do all the things we're talking about, like compete and utilize performance enhancing drugs and stuff in much healthier mentally and physically ways than not. But it's never really physically healthy, and it's never really mentally the healthiest. But I just think that a lot of people, they get so caught up. They get way too caught up in like, I'm not looking, as good as I did yesterday. Oh my God, my abs are not there this morning. Or, oh my God, do I need to do more fasted cardio? They're so caught up in the look of their body at all times, what they weigh, if it's heavy enough, if it's low, if it's light enough, they're not actually living a healthy, happy life. They have body dysmorphia. They're tied to, I have to wear this certain article of clothing so it hides me, or so my muscles are too small, or whatever it might be. A lot of women, feel like, oh my God, like when I'm not on prep, I'm too fat. I'm fat. When they're in amazing shape, they're very healthy. And they're not actually like experiencing full, quality diets. They're just doing a bodybuilding diet with too much protein that's taxing their kidneys long term. They're not incorporating wide, varieties of vegetables and fruits and like, bone broths and like just healthy things like supplements like you guys have. I mean, the brand is more like along the lines of like focusing on true like inner health and like spirituality almost in a sense, which you can kind of achieve through food, like a mental clarity state where you're actually, feeling healthy and, you're not always concerned about your body image and how big you are in this, and so competing in steroids, it's very easy. Like not to get, run away with the topic, but it's very easy. It's very easy to like, to just get hooked on like, okay, I need more steroids to look even better. I need to, eat less food all the time to look even better. I need more food. And so you're either eating way too little amount of food or way too much food. You're never incorporating fasts. And your real goal is not actually health at all. It's how does my body look on the outside? So,
and it's a polar opposite from the health on the actual inside.
Especially with steroids being used.
Dude,
especially.
You gave me the chills for a second there because I appreciate what you say, just looking from the outside in and like starting to work with CURED. Like that's our mission, man. Like, because like there's supplements. This is how I speak to CURED. We're revolutionizing supplements. Supplements are supplemental to a healthy lifestyle that has routines that are sustainable and do the things that you're talking about. And then of course you can still need supplements, but like, let's check all the boxes first to be like actually healthy. And then sometimes I can't focus. Sometimes I can't sleep. Sometimes I get anxious. And so sometimes I need the products that we have, but it's a holistic view of what living a healthy, sustainable lifestyle is. And I think one of the things that really stood out to me is like, I think that you don't even actually, you can get to the point where you're actually not even living life to live life. Like you're forgetting what like the actual pleasure buttons of life are. Like, what does it mean to go out and like eat a really nice dinner and not like overindulge yourself, but like eat and like not feel any guilt. Yeah. And I don't think enough men talk about it, but like, man, I struggled with body dysmorphia a lot and I still do. And I think the hardest part for me, and I'm interested to hear about this for you, because I'm not sure where you're at in like cycling or coming off or in HRT, but like, dude, losing muscle and like looking at how big you can get and then going through the muscle loss and like going into arm thrust and comparing yourself to other people, man, it's hard for me. It's really hard. And that sucks because like we're just beating ourselves up.
Yeah. The interesting thing about it is I've come to like this. So first of all, just to be transparent, right now, what I utilize is I'm on 175 test and a week. Yeah. And I use 2 IUs of growth hormone. So it's like, I'm not natural by any means right now, but I'm on an amount for me where like my blood work is phenomenal. I feel great.
Do you do HCG?
I don't right now, but I actually probably will incorporate that just for like the potency and stuff like that for the future. But not to
have
right now.
Kids in the future. Do you want to have kids?
I do. Yeah.
So that was a big concern for me. Yeah. And my wife and I just had our first child, and so I think it's like
there's ways to go about it, like injectable glutathione, Clomid, HCG, like whatever it is. So that's what I use right now. So it's something that's like sustainable that I can use year round. My blood work's phenomenal. I feel very healthy. I don't hold water. Like.
And your testosterone should be at an optimal level.
Yeah.
I think it's important to be not even just a male. It's also females. It's a thing that like you're supposed to have testosterone. Yeah. And when your testosterone isn't at optimal levels, you're lethargic. Your mood can be off. The way that you actually do digest food, your sleep, so many things are affected by your hormones being off. So I don't think there's anything wrong with testosterone and supplementing testosterone
at smaller doses. It can be actually healthy in my opinion. Now I would say like 175 is above like TRT. If I wanted to bring myself for like a natural, just like the high end of a natural male, I'd probably be 50 milligrams less. Yeah. But I'm conscious of that. So I'm not like, what
does your test measure at?
Right now, I think it's about like 1,200 or something like that. Yeah. So like, I mean, there are, 900 to 1,000 is probably the top end of natural. So it's like actually, once your levels start to get really high when you're taking the testosterone, it actually can, like you said, when it's low, you have lethargic, your sex drive's low. That actually can happen when it's really high as well. So I find like a good baseline for me where I feel great is like, very like, the levels of like 1,000 to 1,200. I'm also, very young. So as I get older, I would drop the amount that I use essentially because when I'm 60, I don't need to have levels of 1,200, maybe 500, but, yeah. So, but back to your point though, of what you were saying, like you go into arm thrust, you're like, oh, I kind of feel like lost muscle. I mean, when I'm cycling on a prep, like, I'm looking much, crazier in a sense, I guess you could say. But I look at it as though like those people that are like basically, like more power than they look the way that they're doing what they want to do. Like whatever, they're huge, they're looking incredible. I mean, I've been there too, and I know I could go back there. And I mean, you could go back there too. Yeah. It's just, a few little pins away, right? But
it's just so wild how our minds work.
Yeah.
It seems like you have a healthier relationship with it than I do, which is awesome. But because there's the other component of it, of like what it feels like to really be changing or like pushing what you're capable of.
Totally.
Like, oh fuck, like I could do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really dope.
Yeah.
And I think that's the nugget to take from it and understand that you can do that in any area of your life. It's just like, we tend to hold ourselves.
I think it's comparison is what really is what fucks everybody over. You go in, you're you might feel bad. You walk in the gym, you're like, oh, this, like you said, you might look around or whatever. And I've struggled with that heavily in the past. And I'm just at a good place now where I'm like, that person is probably like damaging their health severely to be looking this way that I'm quote unquote supposed to be admiring, and they're not really actually healthy. Like are they living like in a way that I wouldn't want to be living? You know what I mean? Like I feel like it's kind of, it's interesting because like you said, as men, I mean, as all people, like we want to look a certain way, like, make yourself feel more confident, but to a certain degree, like you have to just be confident in what you have, and really, move away from, I try to move away from admiring, like whatever, like overly admiring someone just because like they're big and huge and all these things, because it's really just not anymore what I find to be like that admirable in life. Like, I mean, I'd rather like raise a family and like have a loving wife and be very healthy and be able to like ride my bike 100 miles and also look good in the gym, but just be more balanced than
versatile.
Be more versatile than just pumping my body with steroids and ruining myself, like that's really the main thing that, makes me feel more content, like with the body dysmorphia. Like over the years, like over the last year, I've made such strides because I don't compare myself anymore. I'm like, you know what? Like I could compare myself to this guy, how big he is. But like, I could also, you can compare yourself to people in many different ways that can upset you, but that guy might be like, oh wow, like I wish like I was, I wasn't like so bloated and I was like lean like this guy, like maybe all the girls like this guy. So that guy's he might be looking at you like, and then it's just someone else is, oh, look at that guy's car. Like, I wish I had that car. But then, it's like, well, maybe he can't even afford that car. But so I just try to never,
that's a good point.
it's like the same principle. So like, I try to like remind myself like a million times in my head, like, just focus on yourself, on yourself. And it's so hard. It's like you said, it's easier said than done.
Yeah.
And I struggle with the body dysmorphia to some degree still, but it's way less, and I'm glad that it is for you too. But it's super normal, and I think everyone struggles with it.
Do you listen to Joe Rogan at all? Do you listen to his podcast?
A good amount of it, yeah.
I think it's wild that probably these days everybody does, which is fucking wild. Yeah. But he's been talking a lot about the concept of one day we'll be able to actually understand people's thoughts, or like not like be able to hear people's thoughts. Okay, I guess is what he's saying. Like he's talking about like Elon Musk and like the Neuralink,
so I
and
can know what's going on in your head if I look at you in the gym and you're like, oh fuck,
but we both feel the same way, because like what you're saying is exactly. I think that that's what happens in our world. Even like when there's chaos in the world, like at the basis, at the core, I think we all want the same thing. We want to be loved, we want to be seen, we want to be understood, and we want to like be happy and enjoy life. And it looks different for all of us, but I compare myself to one person on one thing, they probably compare themselves on another thing back to me, and we're like, hey, like we both want the same
it's
thing.
like the grass is always greener, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you let it, like, because I'll have people come up to me and they're like, you know, starstruck, and I'm always very like, I appreciate these people for that, but they're like, oh my gosh, you're so big, or whatever the case. And like, you know, I might feel that way about somebody else, you know what I mean? But so I just I try to like that makes perfect sense what you're saying, because everybody like in the gym, even there could be a guy that's 260 pounds that's just like, you know, bigger than anyone could ever imagine, and he is not even secure with himself. You know, so that's why it's like at some point it's honorable to probably cut yourself off and be like, hey, like there's more to life. There's more, you know, balance is probably the best thing to do. And if you are going to compete, it's possible to have balance and do all these things we're talking about. It's just much harder, and most never actually accomplish that. But yeah, I mean, it's the body dysmorphia thing, man. I think many men don't speak about it because we're supposed to be these like macho beings, you know, we're supposed to, you know, like, oh, if you're not big, you should get big, you should get bigger, always be bigger, whatever. But at a certain point, it's like, it actually just creates you to be more insecure. I have a friend of mine right now that like just started really getting into the gym. He's literally put on like 15 pounds of lean mass from like noob gains. And he's like probably a bit leaner than he was.
Noob gains, those are real.
Yeah. And he's leaner than he was. And now every day I'm with him, do my arms look small? Do I look lean? Do my arms like, all the time. And he tells me, and now he's kind of even bringing it up to me. Like, yeah, I think I might have some body dysmorphia, and it created it for him to get into the gym. And he kind of started using some steroids.
That's wild.
So that created it even worse. And it's just funny because when he was skinnier and, you know, didn't look as, you know, good in the eyes of a bodybuilder, he didn't have body dysmorphia. He was the most confident guy ever. He started going to the gym, gained muscle, and got leaner and has abs. And now he's self-conscious because he looks at like he might look right across from the guy at Armbrust or the guy, you know, at the local gym who like has been doing this stuff for 6 years. And he's like, oh my gosh, like I feel like I could never look like that. And then he's, you know, you compare. It's tough.
It's true, man. So what does health look like for you? I mean, you're talking about riding your bike, but like what does like all-encompassing, well-rounded, the most like integral, healthy version of Dylan, like what does that look like?
Yeah. So
like, how do you approach that?
It can be different for different people. I think specifically due to some people, and I want to preface this because they have bad relationships with food. So this is just for me, because a lot of people, you know, like they can't diet how I do, or they can't, you know, do the things I do just because, you know, they might have some type of relationship with food that they need, you know, another way of health. But like for me, what I've noticed is when I stay like really like pretty lean, like so when I stay like very lean to a healthy degree, right? Not like, you know, low single digit body fat, maybe like 9 to 12% body fat. When I stay like very lean and I eat like, and I don't overeat myself, like because I'm like, I need to get bigger. Like if I eat like a very normal healthy amount of calories daily, you know, maybe like 2,500 calories a day. And I do a 12-hour fast every night. And like on the weekend, I indulge, like, you know, I might, just like eat a little bit less food during the day, maybe fast a little bit. And then I indulge at night and have, you know, a big dinner, whatever I want to have. And incorporating like a lot of cardiovascular exercise. All of those things just make me feel, like I have the most clarity, you know what I mean? I think that like when I'm like eating too much food and I'm too bloated and I have excess weight on my body and I'm not doing cardio, those things make me, I have more, and my food quality is low, because that's actually one of the biggest things, which is the food quality. So for me, it's like trying to stay, you know, lean, but in a healthy way, healthy body fat, incorporating a lot of cardiovascular exercise, incorporating fasting, and then also indulging as well, like to a healthy degree, like, you know, I
think you have to.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think you have to.
And the last thing I would say is just the quality of food. So like I used to be like, this macros are macros, right? Like, and now I'm at the point where it's like, I totally understand the difference between like 100% grass-fed, grass-finished beef with like, you know, rather than the run of the mill, beef you're going to get, and adding a veggie to every single meal, having a wide variety of things for your microgut like biome. It needs a wide variety of fruits, of vegetables, and lots of them. And it does, and your body typically doesn't run well with 350 grams of protein, right? You should probably, do.
Who the hell ever started that shit?
A lot of people do it though.
I know. I did.
So I think just having balanced all that, being balanced and eating good quality whole foods.
Yeah. How about what do you put in your mind? Like, what do you absorb?
Okay, so that's a good question too. I think for me, I try to limit on social media. I never really pay all that much attention, not in a rude way, but to what a lot of people are doing. I pretty much fixate on people that I respect for one reason or another, whether it's they have some type of business advice to give me, or spiritual advice, or some detailed understanding of how this veggie is, what it does for you, or this or whatever. So things that I can really get value from, I consume. Or things, sometimes that just bring me entertainment that I know are there for my entertainment. I watch, but I try to stay away from just getting caught up in just what's cool, what's new to what's everyone talking about, what's everyone watching, scrolling on TikTok for 7 hours. You know what I mean? I try to stay away from that stuff.
So my wife and I have a 5-month-old, and it's going to be interesting to see what the world is like in years to come, because it's insane how it works. So I unfollowed everybody on Instagram last year, and now I'm starting to refollow people on my personal account.
Certain people.
CURED, we have we all of our partners, everybody. But
sure.
On my personal, I just unfollowed everybody, because I was I want to change the algorithm. I want to make it look different. I want to and so for a while I just unfollowed everybody. And what's interesting is even going to the explore page at times, still find myself trapped in this scrolling, clicking, and I'm it'll be 2 minutes, so it's not bad. I'm very conscious of it, but I'm damn, that shit works really well. Have you watched that social dilemma documentary on Netflix?
Some of it, but not all of it. Kind of fell asleep to it one night, but yes,
it's insane.
It is how they had the top, some of the top developers be we make this to make you addicted. 100%.
Yeah, it's literally that is they called the like button on Facebook the dopamine button or something like that.
Yeah, and it's crazy because think about it now. It's the best business model that mankind's ever seen. The social media networks like Facebook, Instagram, which is why they're the biggest companies in the world. Some of them, not these are Fortune 100 company. All of them are pretty much Fortune 50 or Fortune 25, probably top 25 company.
Yeah,
and it's because everybody now wants more likes. They want more comments. They want more popularity. And it's we're living in this internet world, right? A lot of people, you're living through Instagram. You know what I mean? People are, I want to look this way on Instagram. I want this. And I mean, it's hard not to, especially when businesses are run through it and stuff. It's you're always how do I look on social media? How am I portraying myself? All of these things. And it's very hard to kind of back away and just truly just be your authentic self, not overly worry about every angle and every little thing that's done, and just be how you would be in person. But on social media, it's very tough.
Thank you for sharing all of this, because people look up to you, and to hear you reflect the exact same things that a lot of people that probably follow you we're the same. It's interesting, man. It's a wild world. And let's also be honest that it's I'm super thankful for the world too, because you get to meet rad humans. You get to build businesses. You connect with people all across the world that you would have probably never connected with ever. It's just, I think for future generations, we just have to think about what, I don't know. I think there's just regulations or
how to
something.
Go about. I think honestly, a lot of it comes down to probably teaching our children how to still be humans and to use social media the right way. You were mentioning Joe Rogan, but it's he kind of preaches that too. It's like, I mean, social media, I mean, it's an amazing thing. I would not take it away. I mean, this has given me everything, and I love it. And I love the people I've been connected with, the businesses that I've been able to build and stuff like that. But at the same time, there's lots of negative. It really is lots of negative. With anything positive comes a lot of negative. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just think that it's like teaching our future generations, like, how to properly use the social medias and how to not get too consumed with it. I mean, bullying is the worst it's ever been. Body dysmorphia is the worst it's ever been. Yeah. I mean, my sister, like, she's growing up right now, and she's 12 years old. She turns 13 in like a few days, but she's like about to be in high school. And, all of her friends, like, they're just so entangled in the social media. They care so much about it. And, back, even when I was like in middle school, that was not the case. You went to school, you saw your friends, you went home, you might have like hung out with your friends after school, but it wasn't this like constant like judgment on social media and like kids talking about each other on social media. Like, you had to face people in person. Yeah. So this is the thing. You don't face people in person on social media.
Yeah. And I think that's a big problem because honestly, like we as a society and we as individuals that want to raise kids and bring new people into this world, like, we have this responsibility to also build resilience, but also the ability to stand up for yourself. Like, you have to be able to experience that in real life. And I think it's important for us to be, I've been thinking about this a lot over the last year. I think that there are so many, we might go down a rabbit hole here.
No, I'm here for it.
The world that we've experienced in the last year over the course of 2020, where you can be a literal like activist and say something, but like, is the truth in real life that you're actually doing what you're saying you're like preaching about or yelling about for something? And like, I think that America actually needs to like remember why we exist and why we're powerful and what freedom really is, because it's scary to watch what can happen when we look around. And like I was saying earlier, I was like, there's this group of people over here, there's this group of people over here. Deep down, they probably want the exact same things, but this one's yelling and that one's yelling and they literally can't hear each other. Yeah. And that's like the danger of social media is like, how are we going to get to the place where we can actually like,
and media.
Yeah. And I think that's what's happened is like, there's just been this veil that's been pulled away and everybody's like, oh, so that's how this works. That's how these systems work. Yeah. And I think it's on us and future generations to actually change that, like to actually like understand the good behind it, the power behind it, the way that we can, utilize it in a way to literally change how markets work and change how information is distributed, change how we learn. But I don't know,
man. Be your own person, I think, and it's like a big part of it is like at the top. Like, I feel like at the top, there's, like you said, there's divide, right? Like, so there's divide from many things in America now, like, and in the world. And I think a lot of it is like, there's people at the top of certain industries or political parties and things like that, that basically, they want basically their ideology and their way of being to like prevail. Yeah. So basically like that, it's like, and then it trickles down through the media, through the whatever it is, Fox, CNN. I use those two because they're both polar opposites. So both of them, right? It's both. I mean, or another one. You could name anyone. They all kind of like have agendas, or even a YouTuber, a specific YouTubers, whatever, right? Like they kind of listen to that, and then they're on that side. They're with this new or that or whatever it might be. And so I feel like from the top, right, with social media, I mean, things are being like banned. You can't say this. You can't do this, or you can do this.
Well,
you can say this.
I think Taylor was telling me that Katrina's
she got shadow banned or something like that. I mean, like, yeah, and it like she would just get random posts like taken down, and then they're like, it's just so weird. Yeah, I mean, I've seen it happen to people like for no reason. Yeah, it was for no reason. People just get posts like flagged and taken down, and they get their accounts deleted.
Yeah.
But it's not even on purpose. And some of it is like deliberate, like, oh, you spoke too much about a vaccine, or you spoke too much about whatever, some political or whatever. That can also happen. For her, it wasn't even like speaking about anything or anything. It was just Instagram's algorithm is flawed. Like, many people, they don't like her, they flag her stuff, then it gets taken down, and then they give her a strike. And then so that we're working on that.
So fucked up.
But yeah, it's fucked up, man.
It literally happened to Cured. So we've literally had the same amount of followers for 2 years, but we get thousands and thousands of followers every month, and we just lose thousands and thousands of followers.
It's especially on Instagram.
Yeah, we can't run paid advertising.
You're shadow banned, basically.
I don't know what
you can't run paid advertising.
Well, we can't run paid advertising because it's marijuana related.
Oh, that's why. Okay.
And so then.
Oh, you know what it is? Yes. Well, your account probably, because of that fact, because you said it's marijuana related, it's pretty much down regulated. Like, they're not going to push that.
Right.
Just due to the fact that you're openly saying it, their algorithm, it's not some one person, but that's how they've created. They're basically shutting you down in a sense. And so that can happen purposely, which clearly it probably does with Cured, but then also with certain individuals, it's just randomly, it's an accidental flaw. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, you have a bunch of followers, so you get 50 people who don't like you, and they just flag your post, and it's a post about being positive and making positive change in the world, and you're fully clothed, and it gets flagged and taken down. You get a strike, you get enough of them, you get shadow banned. For
That's
nothing.
Wild, though.
You could literally say, I love all people, and hold a baby. And people literally
I don't know if you're allowed to say
flagged.
that, Dylan.
You get flagged, though. It's crazy,
I know.
man.
I know.
Yeah. It's that messed up. So it's just like, and that's also, kind of a problem with Instagram or these different algorithms, but that's not even censorship. That's just flat out like,
that's AI working the way it's supposed to, but it's working in a way that like it's actually just like not allowing people to do what they're supposed or they're trying to do. I saw a post. Somebody was talking about the Logan Paul and Floyd Mayweather fight
this Sunday,
and there's a lot of people talking shit on Logan, and like I don't care. I don't care who you are. Mm-hmm. You have to respect what he's doing.
Yeah,
you have to literally respect that he's fighting Floyd Mayweather,
and he's gonna probably make $10 million. Yeah,
and it's because of social media, and he took advantage of it, and he put himself out there, and he was just authentically himself. So we can have these like ideas of like what's wrong with it, and we can have like all of this can exist together. Yeah. We also have to realize that you literally have the power to change your entire life if you just lean into being authentically yourself and just keep going.
I find myself sometimes too, like, and I catch myself and I'm like, that's just not right. Like, you'll be like, oh, like kind of like screw that guy. You know what I mean? Like, how is this happening? You know what I mean? Like, it's like,
right?
This probably shouldn't be happening. Like, this isn't old school but it's like, it's just a new wave and it's really all positive. I mean, what's negative about two guys making, tens of millions of dollars and boxing each other? I mean, really, you know what I mean? Like, it's not hurting like what Canelo Alvarez does. He's one of the best boxers in the world. I mean, it's not hurting, like two professional real boxers that are not saying Logan's not a real boxer, but two guys that are like dedicated 30 years that are like Floyd when he was in his prime, even now. But I'm saying, it doesn't affect that. So I think it's easy to like be like almost mad at it, you know what I mean, from an outside perspective, or other you could say that about many other people. Like all these top people get hate, and you're like, that guy's an asshole. He's got to be an asshole. But it's like, well, you know what I mean? Oh, he's flexing like on Instagram. He's got this. Like, well, he doesn't need to do that with his money or whatever. But it's like in reality, it's just, why would it upset me? You know what I mean? Like, it shouldn't.
We don't know.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But it's almost like. But I think it down deep, it stems from a jealousy from people. You know what I mean? The people who are like, this shouldn't happen, and Logan, this. It's just they're jealous. They don't know it, but they're just jealous.
Those dudes are smart.
Yeah,
like they're really smart.
Very smart.
Whether you like it or you're not, or not, like they're smart. And I just thought I'd bring that up because it's also just like it's the concept that if you utilize it at its full potential, you can literally change your own life, and there's nothing holding you back besides your damn self.
Yeah,
and I think that for me has been so powerful for just like entrepreneurship, because I'm not somebody who built a personal following and then built a business. Yeah. It was literally just opposite. Like I just connected with a lot of people through bodybuilding.
So you built a business and then you kind of started doing, well, you don't really do like that much like I know you didn't grow a following on social media first. You have a bit of a following, but I'm saying like you grew the business for like before any type of social media.
It's so interesting because it was like, so I met, when I was competing, I met Emily Duncan, I met Emily Hayden, I met like several individuals that I think a lot of people followed like in the very beginning of like the uprise of the fitness
Even
world.
still, they're like both two coaches that like many people, like revere as good coaches.
And just became good friends and said, hey, I'm starting this company. I would love to send you this product. And I'm really, truly trying to help people. Like that's why we exist. And that's going to be our mission till forever. Like, and it was just networking. It was literally just making friends and saying, hey, like I'm creating this company, and then having friends that just appreciated me and like respected me and said, yeah, this is a cool product. You're doing cool things, and it's clear what your intentions are. And I think that's what we've seen in our space is like, there's been this whole rise of CBD companies, and then a bunch died off, and now CURED's still here. And like, I think people are actually starting to realize what companies exist for. And it's not just the quick dollar. It's not just like, hey, here's an opportunity. And then where did this company go? We're in it for the long run, and we're in it for having relationships with people like yourself and people that are actually like being real and doing a service to other individuals in the world that like, hey, like want life to be different, and that's it.
Yeah. And it's kind of like we were saying earlier with the YouTube, like if you start it authentically because you love what you're doing, a lot of the times it takes off, right? It's the same thing. Like there's many CBD companies that have fallen off because they did it strictly for a quick dollar. And that's what it was for. I mean, that's why they did it. It was not for the true reason of like consistently bettering products, consistently upgrading the type of CBD used, consistently evolving in any way that they could to help people more.
That's
You know what I mean? That's not what they wanted to do. They were like, oh, well, the margins, we don't like that anymore. We're not going to upgrade that. I guess it's not a thing, because at one point I remember like CBD is still a massive market. It's a huge market. Yeah. But I mean, I remember when it boomed, I mean, I think at one point, like it probably was like this, and then it went like that.
Dude,
and now
hockey stick.
Like it's probably like maybe like kind of maintaining.
Dude, it went down for a while.
Maybe down, but it's almost like a stock in a way.
Yeah.
But the people, like if you hold that stock, and you could even grow through the down, but it's like if you hold that, you know what I mean? And you're like, you're consistently trying to get better. You know what I mean? And also, even with CURED, it's not just CBD because you guys have a lot of other things that are great.
Mushroom products.
Yeah, so I mean, it just makes sense. It makes sense that it kind of can prevail through because of that.
Well, we're going to be here for a long time. We're going to help a lot of people, and we're going to have a lot of dope humans representing the company. And so, yeah, that's the mission, man. Anything that you want to share with the listeners as far as the podcast coming up? Any place you want to point people, and where can they connect with you on social media if they don't already follow you?
Yeah, I'll just let everyone know my social media. If anyone wants to connect, is just McKenna_Dylan. I made that when I was like, I don't even know, in 8th grade. That's why it's my last name and then my first. But yeah, and then just my YouTube's Dylan McKenna, and I'm going to have a podcast starting on my YouTube sometime in the next few weeks, kind of transitioning my channel like I already told you. Hopefully we'll get you on the podcast.
Let's do it, man.
In person because we're here in Denver. But yeah, other than that, I just want to say, thanks everyone for listening if they're all the way to the end, and I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, brother. Great to have you. Great to talk more and get to know you, and I'm looking forward to continuing the connection, man.
Awesome. Appreciate it, man.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for tuning into today's episode of the CURED Collective podcast. As always, we truly, truly appreciate not only you listening to this podcast, but sharing this podcast with others. Of course, leaving a rating and review on the podcast app is very much appreciated as well. But the only way that we can create the impact that we want in this world is to have our message spread further and further through you individuals that tune into the podcast, that absorb our content, and understand our mission and values as a company. So please take a second. If you benefited from this episode, share it with somebody you love, share it with somebody in your friend group, and share the wealth. As always, coupon code collective at curednutrition.com will save you 15%, and we look forward to catching you on the next episode.